Teleport back to the radio days when we knew all the words to the songs they played. Teleport back to a place in time when we dreamed and we danced with no end in sight. I can hear all the records we played. All the memories haunt me to this day. Flashbacks, replays, looping through my brain. Things will never be the same.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Two Beers with Van. I'm your host, Chris Schron. Thanks to everyone that is joining us for the first time, and welcome back those that have listened to every episode. For this episode, I will be talking with Manny from Lillypillies. I came across Lillypillies sometime back on another YouTube channel called Music Making Sense Podcast. If you're needing help with your music marketing, check out Music Making Sense Podcast. Now, on to the show. So, Manny, introduce yourself while I pour myself a beer.
Chris, well, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's awesome to talk to you. My name is Manny, and I'm from a band which is based primarily in Australia. I mean, I get around a bit, but primarily in Australia, and we're called the Lillypillies, and we play, I guess, how can I define my music? It's probably indie rock, indie pop.
Okay.
And we're up to, we've been pretty busy the last few years, and we've just finished recording our third album, which is out next week.
All right. What date is that album coming out?
Easy to remember because it's the 1st of July.
Nice. What's the name of the album?
So the name of the album is Teleport Back, and it's part of a trilogy. So our first album was called Run to the Future. Our second album was called Songs from the Present Day. And this one sort of closes the chapter on the trilogy, and it's called Teleport Back.
Okay, for everybody here in the U.S., where will we be able to find that?
On all streaming platforms. So it's out everywhere. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon. It's out everywhere.
Well, I know you guys put out quite a few videos, so let everybody know where they can find you on YouTube.
Yeah, just on our YouTube channel. So if you type in the Lillypillies, spelt correctly, because I think that in case you're wondering, Lillypillies is actually a native Australian tree. So if I look outside, I can see plenty of Lillypilly trees. And I thought it would be a cool name for the band. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because if you Google Lillypillies, you might hopefully you'll find us, but you might also find a tree as well.
Well, I think when I looked you guys up for the first time, what I did is I put your name in, Lillypillies, then I put music. And, of course, you guys popped up first. So for everybody out there, you put Lillypillies in Google or DuckDuckGo, whatever you're using, make sure you put either music or band in behind it. And these guys will definitely come up, and you will see a long list of music, videos, all kinds of stuff. You guys really stay on top of social media and, stay in the front of mind of people who follow you. And I think that's really, really cool that you put so much time into your music videos, into your social media post, and you're on top of it the way you should be. And I think that's really awesome. And you'll get a lot of exposure that way. I guess one of my first questions. Oh, let me introduce the beer. I forgot to do that. The beer that I'm going to be drinking is a red ale called Station 28 from Tenfold Brewing here in Dawson, Tennessee. This is a red ale named after the fire hall that sits across the street from Tenfold. Once a year, they brew this beer, and it's only out for a limited time, but I wish that wasn't so because it's very tasty. So while I take a sip of this beautiful red ale, why don't you let everybody know what you're sipping on?
Well, I have a first of all, I'm not sipping on anything because it's actually 9 o'clock in the morning here on a Saturday morning here in Sydney, Australia. I do have a Corona and I've just got it out just so I can keep you company. I'm
Right.
not gonna drink Corona at 9 o'clock in the morning. I
Well,
do like a beer in the afternoon.
I thought you might have a coffee or something you're working on, it being so early in the morning.
Yeah, I can't function without my morning cappuccino, so I've definitely had one, and I probably need another one already. But I want to tell you an interesting beer story. Actually, I live in a neighborhood in suburbia here where I've known my neighbors for quite a number of years, and we haven't done it for a little while, but we were part of a beer club where once a month we gather at somebody's house and we each have to bring I think it was about 10 beers actually, 10 beers
Oh my.
that obscure beers that no one's heard before. We had a list, and if you go to the beer party and a beer's already been on that particular list, then it wasn't good enough. You have to actually go and look at the list and say, okay, what haven't we had? And we would find the most obscure beers that no one had ever heard of. But we haven't done that for a while. Actually, I should bring it up.
I did
And
that.
we had a name. It was called the Beers of the World.
You should definitely do that because I would definitely subscribe if you guys did it like on YouTube or something and had your own channel. I would definitely check in because, you know, obviously you guys would be drinking a whole bunch of beers that we probably can't get over here in the US and definitely couldn't get here in Nashville. And that would be a lot of fun, especially if y'all had that many beers to work through. I think that would
It
just
gets it used to get a little bit messy, actually. That's probably why we haven't done it for a while.
well, I had a neighbor before he moved away that we did the same thing, but we would bring three beers each, and we would bring three beers that we've never had before. So, in other words, I would bring six beers, one for me, one for him, and we would go through and yay, nay, what we did like, didn't like, smell, the whole thing. So, by the end of six beers, you were pretty much right there where you wanted to be. But yeah, I think that's cool. I think you'd have fun. I would have fun. I would definitely have fun doing something like that
That's
because
why I mentioned it. I knew you'd appreciate that.
I'm a beer guy. I think bringing 10 beers probably a little too much, but I definitely try. So, what's it like being an indie artist in Australia?
Look, for me, it's very rewarding, and I'll tell you why. Because once upon a time, to be an independent artist, before we had streaming platforms, you really had to try and fit into a certain category, or try and get onto a particular radio station, and maybe even like try and do a lot of gigs, even though maybe people weren't turning up, just to sort of try and get your name out there. And nowadays, I have people that follow me from all over the world who message me and send me emails and comment on my YouTube channel. And I really, glad that we have new music coming out. And but I feel blessed to be able to do what I'm doing as an independent artist without having to be signed to a major record label, which was the case, years ago. If you wanted to put music out, then you had to try and get signed, and now you can pretty much do it on your own.
Would you want to get signed by a label?
That's a really good question because if you'd asked me that years ago, I probably would have said yes. And now I don't think that I would. And I'll tell you why. Because I want to do things on my own terms and I want to create the music that I want to create without being dictated by someone telling me you need to do this, and that. So I think that probably not. And I mean, and we also have, we're lucky in Australia as well because we have a lot of independent radio stations that play our music as well. So one of our singles last year, I think, got to about 80 or 90 independent radio stations all across Australia.
Wow. Okay, that answers my next question. But you have 80 or 90 independent stations. How do you go about getting your music to each one of those stations?
Yeah, so there's an Australian website called amrap.org. Amrap stands for Australian Music Radio Airplay Project, and it's a government, I think it's a government funded initiative where independent artists upload their music to Amrap, like their new single, for example, and then all the radio stations across Australia, the DJs have access to the station, and they go through and they decide what they want to play and what they don't want to play. So they might have, 20 new tracks, and they might decide to play five of them. And that's how it works. So with the latest single that we released yesterday, I've uploaded that to Amrap, and I can tell which DJ has downloaded it already. I haven't really checked at the moment, but I'll probably check tomorrow. And then when it gets played, they usually some of them are really cool because they tag us on Facebook saying, "Hey, we're about to play your song," and if I get tagged, I can tell and I can share it as well to my audience. So it kind of sort of grows that way.
We have here in Nashville, we have one independent station, Lightning 100. They play not. I'm not going to say only local artists, but they're real heavy into playing local artists, and artists here can submit straight to Lightning 100, and generally they'll get played at least once. If one of the DJs, like what you says, picks them up and says, "I really enjoy this artist, I'm going to make them the artist of the week," and they'll get a ton of airplay. Or they'll do DJ pick. One of the DJs will pick the band, and they'll get quite a bit of airplay that particular day, whatever DJ it is. It's really cool. But what they don't do is the radio station doesn't tag the artist to let them know, "Hey, we're fixing to play your song," or whatever. I think that would be awesome because sometimes artists do miss being played on the radio. They submit their work, but they can't sit there and listen 24/7 to see if it comes through, because in this tune you can't stop, you can't slow down.
Yeah, exactly. I think in some respects it's easier with YouTube because you can watch replays and listen to what people have said and read comments. But with radio, it's harder to keep a track of. I can't sort of keep up with all the indie radio stations unless I know beforehand.
Well, as you spoke of playing at venues, how many different venues, I guess, locally support indie music or support indie artists?
I think it's getting better now here in Sydney. We went through a stage, especially after COVID, where a lot of the venues had closed down or died down, and I think it's just kind of starting to, get better again just in the last couple of years here in Sydney. There were some laws that prevented venues from staying open till late, and a lot of these venues had to close. Now these laws have been changed. For us, I mean, for this particular project, we have done a couple of gigs, but it's not really my focus. When I was younger, I used to play live every single week, but for me, I think what matters is the music and the recording and the creation of the music. Because if we're out playing week after week, you don't really get the chance to be creative. And I got to a point where I had all this live experience, and I didn't really have anything to show for my music. And I remember having a conversation with someone asking me, "Oh, okay, so you're a musician. Let's hear what you've done." And I didn't really have anything that I was proud of. So with the Lillypillies in the last 5 years, my focus has really been songwriting, producing, putting out music videos. And now finally I have something that I'm really proud to show. I have a whole channel of music and my music on streaming platforms.
in Australia, being an indie artist, do you have to book all the venues yourself? Do you have to?
Well, it depends if you have an agent. So years ago, as I said, when I used to play live, I'm talking like in the early 2000s, we had an agent that did all that for us. So we basically would just turn up and play. Um, that was the case back then, and we would just literally set up our gear and play, and that was it. So if you have an agent, I think it makes it easier.
Well, I know in Nashville, a lot of the artists that I talk to, they can't afford an agent, and I've heard horror stories about booking shows and getting other bands, and they're having to be their agent as well as have a full time job, as well as be a bandmate. And bands that have two, three, four members, each member tends to wear a different hat as far as the business side of music. But it's difficult from what I understand, booking shows here in Nashville. But you mentioned that you focus more on writing and the production of music. Do you feel that that is something an indie artist should focus more on?
Yeah, I think so because I'll give you an example. I could play a show tomorrow if I wanted to, and round up. I mean, we're a duo, so to be able to play live, I'd have to round up some musicians, which is not hard to do. My son is a guitarist, for example. But we would fill, mate. We'd probably get 100 people, 200 people to come and watch us play. But if we focus on doing a really cool music video, that I've got a music video on my YouTube channel that's had like 10,000 streams. Plus, add to that TikTok and Instagram and Spotify streams, so you get a lot more reach, especially if you're not just concentrating on one particular city. YouTube, people can see you and listen to you from all around the world. So for me, it's more rewarding at this stage to to work on creating the best sound that I can create, as well as the visuals. 90% of the stuff that is out on my YouTube channel is stuff that I've actually captured visually as well. Minimum stock footage. I like to think that we use minimum stock footage.
So you're saying, as an indie artist, if you focus more on content and creation and focus less on playing live and worrying about the stress of booking shows and things of that nature, that you're going to have a better reach.
Well, look, I think obviously playing live is fun as well, but I think I did that for so long that I kind of got it out of my system in a way. I've been there and I've done that. But and I can see, my son, he has his own little band, and they enjoy doing what they do. So there's an element of fun as well. But I guess even traditionally, I mean, I think even big artists, what they usually do is they spend time creating an album and then touring that album to promote that album. I don't think, in my opinion anyway, there's much point in doing it the other way around. Is first trying to do shows and playing live and then creating. Like, you should be using the gigs to promote what you've created, an album, perhaps a single, an EP. That's I mean, I'm not saying that everyone should be doing that, but that's my own opinion.
Well, it seems to be working. As far as a community in Sydney, is there a large community of musicians, of indie artists, things like that?
Yeah, I think Australians are pretty creative, and we there's a lot of artists that perhaps maybe people didn't even know that they were Australian. Even Hollywood actors now. There's so many Hollywood actors that are actually Australian and they have American accents because that's what they have to do in movies. But we're a pretty creative country. I think there's only 25 million Aussies, and even at the Olympic Games, we always do well in sports and music and cinema. I think something must be working. Yeah, maybe the government is investing in this sort of stuff. I'm not quite sure, but whatever they're doing, it seems to be working.
All right. What drives you to make music?
I think I've got it in me. Even when there was a time in my life when I didn't really have the opportunity to be creative anymore. And, I was busy with other things, family or work. But still, I would wake up in the mornings and I'd have melodies in my head. And I didn't necessarily jump on a musical instrument to try and capture that. They just sort of came and went, came and went. And now finally, I think that with Lillypillies, with this project, I get to sort of, sort of get that creativity out of me, and that's what drives me. I think I'm always in search of the perfect indie pop song. I've been told time and time again that I come up with really catchy melodies and hooks, and in my mind, it's like, oh, the next one has to be even catchier, the next one has to be even better, and I think that's what's been driving me as well.
Okay. What kind of sacrifices have you made to do music, and was it worth it?
Sacrifices. I think that, yeah, I think early on, especially when, I'm even talking prior to Lillypillies, I think the sacrifices were perhaps maybe that I could have been doing something else and maybe doing further study and getting degrees in this and that. And instead I focused on perfecting my art. And that, I think, if I look back, sometimes I say to myself, well, if you hadn't done all this, maybe you could have done this instead. But I'm content and I'm glad if I could go back, I wouldn't change anything.
Okay, so it was definitely worth the sacrifice to get to where you are now.
I think so, because at the end of the day, I think that artists are very fortunate because, we're only on Earth for a short amount of time, and whatever's left in the world, usually it's something that's artistic, whether it's a painting or a song. The things that remain are art, I think. The legacy. No one's going to sort of remember whether we did a spreadsheet on an Excel spreadsheet, but if someone looks at a beautiful building or a painting or listens to a song that the artist perhaps is not even alive, it's something that remains. So I think artists are very fortunate because
Yeah,
not everyone can do what we do.
that is true. I happen to be one of those people that cannot do what you guys do. And as far as heroes, musicians, I put musicians on the top pedestal above actors, athletes, things like that, because musicians to me are a different breed. You have an art inside you that has to come out. Singing, writing, playing instruments, whatever the case may be, it has to come out. And the sacrifices people make in pursuit of letting out that creativeness and just pounding and pounding and pounding away and trying to make it better. And for an artist who gets up on stage, be it in front of 100 people or 100,000 people, you've got to be perfect or close to perfect every time. There's no, you can't start over, oh, do it again, oh, cut, everybody back to one. I mean, it's just you made a mistake, either dwell on it and fail, or you know what, cruise on through, try not to do it again. And I mean, I think it's so interesting how people, and a lot of artists that I've talked to are introverts, but when they're on stage, they're the life of the party. And I think it's very unique how somebody can command your attention when they're on stage and the bright lights are on them. But when they're off stage, they're kind of like, yeah, okay, I'll be over here if you need me. So, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Yeah, I think that deep down, it's probably hard to believe for some people, but I am an introvert, I think, even though I don't appear to be one quite often because I can speak and I'm not shy right now, but I sometimes you have to fake it a bit as well. Um, but yeah, like you said on stage, you leave all that behind and you just do what you do. But I wouldn't call myself an extrovert. Probably not, no.
Okay, you made a reference earlier about pursuit of the perfect pop song. Have you ever created in your mind the perfect pop song?
I think that I'd like to think that I haven't because it kind of drives me to keep going. But at the same time, we've actually had one song that was number one on the Amrap that website that I mentioned earlier. So just going back, Amrap is the website that Australian DJs use to as a tool to play the indie radio, and they have like a top 10 weekly of all the weekly songs that are the most downloaded by Australian DJs. And I remember once getting to number 6 thinking, wow, this is like the best thing ever because I never imagined that so many people would download my song getting to number 6. And then a year later, we had number 1 on AMRAP with a song called All Around the World. And which was kind of getting played without even sort of pushing it too much or trying too hard. So um, I don't know. To answer your question, I always think that I do. It's like, okay, this is a perfect pop song, and then maybe I wake up the next day and listen to it with fresh ears and thinking, maybe the next one can be even better. So, I mean, artists are so critical. I'm always critical of everything that I do, no matter what. No matter how many great comments I get from my songs, I'm super critical, and I'm never 100% satisfied with anything, which is bad.
Well, I know a lot of artists have a catalog of unfinished music because they think it's just not good enough, or it's not complete, or it's not the right time to release this song or this entire album. Um, how many unfinished songs do you have?
Ooh, I have probably about 20 to 30 that I have unfinished. And a lot of the times, they just sit there for a while. And there was one particular song where I just finished it and wasn't happy with it. And then I let my guitarist hear it, and he said to me, "Are you crazy? Like this is the song that needs to be released." And there's been a couple of instances like that where I felt very, very critical of them, but then maybe you just need to change a bass line or something, and it was just that one thing that sort of needed changing, or one line or a lyric or something. And yeah, I think that one of the reasons why I think my songs sound polished, or that's what I get anyway, that's what the feedback that I get is because I don't just finish something and release it straight away. I dwell on it. I always give it the car test, where if it sounds good in the car, then it's passed the test, because if it sounds good in the car, it sounds good everywhere. And then I don't release it straight away. So I I work on the video. The video might take weeks, months to do. And this particular song that we released yesterday, which is called Teleport Back, was finished 6 months ago, but it's just sat there because it wasn't the right time to release it. And the video wasn't quite ready. And yeah.
I like the car test. Um, I agree with you on that because over here in the US, I think most people, the only time they listen to music is in the car, on the way to work, on the way home from work, on the way to events, things of that nature. I think most people in the US, as far as music, they're going to be introduced to new songs and new artists while they're in the car. And so many cars have so many different setups as far as speakers and things like that, that it's probably difficult to, like you say, produce a song that would sound good in a car. And I think, at least for me, I enjoy listening to music in the vehicle because certain artists, way back in the 70s and 80s, they would have songs that certain instruments would only play over here, and then other instruments be over there, and then it would kind of bounce back and forth, and then it just came. Of course, back then you only had, four, maybe five speakers in the car, but it was cool when a song would jump around.
Yeah, the Beatles would record like that, where you'd hear a guitar on one end and the vocal on the other. And yeah, they used to do that.
I think that's cool. I enjoy the fact that you do that. Would you say that playing music and writing music heals you?
Yeah, I'd like to think that it does. And I think it does have a healing element as well, because you can write your thoughts, and it's almost, sometimes it's like a therapy as well, because you can just lay down your feelings and emotions. But
Have,
and I also think that as much as I'm a fan of music, sometimes I like to listen to the style of music that I create, but I can't necessarily find it in any other artist. And I'm thinking, if I could find an artist that sounded like me, I would listen to that artist. But it's like I can't really find. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it does, because so many artists can be in one genre, but they can be in multiple subgenres, which is unique to me that there are so many subgenres out there that artists should be able to find themselves a home somewhere. Who who do you listen to? Who do you take? I guess I'm not going to say mimic their music, but who do you listen to that you play the same style of music?
I listen to a lot of different music, and because I'm a musician and I'm a fan of music, if I think I would be bored to just listen to the one genre. So one day I could be listening to something heavy or something grunge from the 90s, and then the next day it could be something with a dance beat, completely different, only because I'm not in the mood for that sort of thing. Or if I wake up in the morning or if I go to bed at night, it's usually something a little bit more mellow, you know. And whereas when I wake up in the morning, it might be something a bit, more funk or pop. Or so I really do like my phone has anything from AC/DC to ABBA and everything in between. That's how broad my tastes are.
Where do your songs come from? Do they come from personal experience or experiences that people have shared with you, or maybe a combination of the two?
I think a combination. I like to write songs that are open to interpretation, so that the listener, when they listen to a song, they can relate to that in whichever way that they feel. I'll give you an example. I wrote a song called Addictions, but when you think about addiction, automatically you might think of drugs and alcohol. But nowadays, people are addicted to the internet or technology or anything really.
That is true.
And the song doesn't tell you what it is. So anyone that listens to it, I think, can relate to their own personal experience without me having to tell them what it's actually about. But in that particular song, it's not about me, but it's just about the situation. And sometimes I write about more sort of what's going on in the world as well, without pinpointing to what it is. For example, there's a song that I wrote called Waiting for a Revolution. And what I mean by that is a revolution of the way that we live without specifying what that is. But I think everyone can relate to the fact that we need to sort of at some point hit the reset button and try and live in a better way that we've been living in the last few years, without being specific.
When you write a song like that and you don't really nail it down to something specific, what kind of reaction do you get from your fans? As far as like addiction, you just kind of leave it open to personal interpretation. What kind of response do you get from your fan base?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate because my fans really, I shouldn't say fans, I should say supporters, really. Um, they comment a lot on, especially on the YouTube channel, and a lot of them said, I can really relate to this song, and this song is about me, and even the song about, waiting for a revolution. That one of the lines says, um, maybe one day everything will change, but right now we're waiting for a revolution. And that could mean politically, that could mean socially, that could mean anything really. So I think that I'm fortunate because, not, well, I wouldn't say fortunate, but I mean, I guess that's just my style of writing, where I write about my experiences but I also like to leave it open to interpretation.
Well, you mentioned that you don't call your fans, you call them supporters. Why do you call them supporters?
Um, because they support what I do, and if they're fellow musicians like me, I like to support them back as well. And yeah, I think that's a nicer word than fans.
Okay, okay. Um, where do you see yourself in 5 years as far as with the band and with your music?
Well, look, at the moment, I think it was important for me to build a body of work. I remember when we did our first song and video, and we were like, "This is cool. We can put this out on YouTube now." And all of, and I would sort of, the first couple of albums were done very, very quickly within the space of 2 years. And then I thought to myself, okay, for anyone that is keen to listen to our music, we have a body of work there, and they can go and listen to it over and over again if they like it. And then sort of it slowed down. So the third album, it's almost 2 years in between the second and the third album. So I think that going forward, I think your question was where do I see myself in 5 years? I think just building. I think trying to get more people to listen to what I do, and hopefully they enjoy what I do. And I think if anyone doesn't know about Lillypillies, they can go back and listen to the first album or the second album, because for them it's new, you know. So I guess I would just want, it's like a building block. I just want to keep building the music and the followers. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned about the first video. I know you guys have put out several different music videos. Has it? I'm sure it's gotten easier um, to make videos, edit, and do things like that. What was it like the first time you decided, okay, we need to make a video for this song? What went through your head to convince you to make that video? And then once you decided to do the video, what was the process that you went through?
Oh, the first time I started making videos, I thought I was super clever, and I would find all this stock footage on the internet that looked fantastic, and I'd put it all together and make this music video, and then, and then I'd see another artist who'd had the same footage as me, and I'm like, oh, that looks like my video. I'm not so clever after all. So it's like, okay, maybe you need to stop doing that. And then I think we carry phones in our pockets all the time. And I'm fortunate because I get to travel quite a bit as well for my job. So I started taking my own videos, and I've got some really, really cool footage, and as well as performances with my fellow band members. And it's fun to make videos. I enjoy it just as much as the music process. Now, I know for some people it's a bit of a chore, but for me, it really relaxes me to go through what the footage that I've taken and edit it, and change it around and put effects on it. I really enjoy doing that. But yeah, early on, I thought I was super clever, and then I'm thinking, oh no, you need to step it up a bit.
So it's like everything else. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And
So yeah,
now instead of it being a chore, you actually look forward to it.
I do. I think that being creative doesn't necessarily have to be limited to the music. You can be creative with artwork, and even with album covers and thumbnails. I do them all. I don't just grab them off the internet. Everything that you see has been created by me.
If you weren't doing music, what would you be doing besides your full-time job? What are you
That
what are you passionate about besides music?
I'm passionate. That I think my problem is that I'm passionate about too many things, and I don't understand how people can be bored in life. I wish that there were more than 24 hours in a day. I love playing sport. I've raised a family. I've got 3 kids. They're all doing their own thing because they're all, old enough to do that as well. I travel for my job, so I get to go to Europe quite a bit, which is where I do videos and stuff as well. And yeah, I think that that's half my problem is maybe I should sort of try and relax more and take a step back. But I always like to do too many things.
Do you think that helps your creativity to go out and experience so many different things, to experience life at home, to travel with your job and see beautiful places, beautiful people, beautiful food, drink, things like that?
Yes and no, because I think that sometimes it prevents me from being in my little home studio if I don't really have a lot of time to sit down and do my art. So sometimes I think like I look forward to like a holiday break just so that I can, like a Christmas holiday break. I remember thinking, okay, you've got 2 weeks and you can just focus on writing, and writing lyrics and writing music. So I mean, on the go, it's a little bit more difficult, but as far as inspiration is concerned, yeah, definitely. I think that, I can then come back and think about all the experiences that I've had and put them into a song. And, last year, for example, I was fortunate to go to Singapore, which I'd never been to. And looking around at all these amazing places and created a music video for a song as well. So, yeah.
Would you call yourself a writer or a performer slash musician?
I think that my passion is writing and producing music first. And I think I have experience as a musician because I was singing in bands ever since I was a teenager. So I've kind of I know how to sing, but I actually don't really enjoy, for example, recording vocals. If I write a song and then I have to get the mic out and set it up and set my little home studio up and get the headphones out and close all the doors. And then it's like, okay, I actually don't enjoy that bit. I once I've captured my voice and then I can produce it and mix it and work on it. That's the fun part for me. But actually, I think sometimes it's a choice like, oh, to record a vocal. Can't be bothered to do that. So I think my passion and my strength is in the songwriting and the producing, and then everything else. I mean, I love it, which is why I do it, but I prefer the other stuff more, the creative part.
Well, being someone that lays down the vocals and then does the production and behind that, do you think that makes your music sound better because you do the final production? You make it exactly what you want to put it out there. You're not going in a studio, laying down the vocals, having someone else come to you and say, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we stack here? Why don't we put in a little echo? Why don't we do this and that? And you just being like, okay, sure. You know, you're the professional. You do what is best. You're the
Yes,
professional.
to
You're
answer
the
the
one
question,
to sit there and say, okay, am I going to stack it here? Am I going to do this? What is it like to take your own voice and manipulate it into final production?
I think that it
All right, y'all. That is the end of part one of the great conversation right here with Manny of the Lillypillies, exclusively right here on Two Beers in the Band podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed the conversation so far. If so, make sure you hit that like, share, follow, and subscribe. And don't forget the notification buzzer as well, so you get notified when part two of the great conversation right here with Manny of the Lillypillies airs, which will be in just 2 days from the original posting of this episode. Now, depending on when you're watching will depend on if it's out already or not. But either way, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and of course, share this with as many people as you know who enjoy hearing all about the ins and outs of the indie artist experience. All right. So again, thank you for checking out part one of this great conversation right here with Lillypillies, exclusively on Two Beers of the Band podcast. I'll see you on part two of this great conversation.
Purple rain on a stairway to heaven in between days, rolling on a river on a Monday. Teleport back to the radio days when we knew all the words to the songs they played. Teleport back to